Employees are losing passions with the average person now faces about 10 plan changes a year, up from 2 not long ago.
I think we need to acknowledge the fact that it is moving a lot faster than it did years ago. When I first got involved with Dynamics CRM back in the day, you could, even as an end client, understand the platform. And then as time went on, we started seeing more changes coming in and more frequently.
How do you get with this FOMO, fear of missing out?
Or have people come with you to the conference that you can then compare notes with.
Try to have what are called clinics. So we pick a topic, we pick a subject, and then it's me presenting on that topic, kind of training session. And primarily people listen, maybe do some quick labs. I mean, in all honesty, I think I have a bit of mixed feelings about champions, but if I think of from a platform perspective, you need to really budget your champion program and build it well.
Today number is 38. That's 2 in 5 managers who'd rather tap out than run another big transformation. Employees are losing passions with changing initiatives. The average person now faces about 10 planned changes a year, up from 2 not long ago. So let me give you from Reddit a quick war story from the community. A nonprofit moved from outbound marketing to real-time journeys because deprecation was looming. They rebuilt everything, automation, fields, everything. And just to recreate leads and contacts. A month later, Microsoft shipped the native feature that does exactly that. So my question to throw in the air, what do you guys recommend for a manager, for a team member, how to navigate dynamics pace of changes and Power Platform pace of change, and just general how to live in this world where everything is shifting too fast and you need to be on top of every single ball?
I think we need to acknowledge the fact that it is moving a lot faster than it did years ago. So I remember when I first got involved with Dynamics CRM back in the day, you could, even as an end client, because I was a client and an end user when I started, you could understand the platform and what it did, and then it didn't change year on year to a certain extent, not much anyway. And then as time went on, we started seeing more changes coming in and more frequently. And now we're at this point where the platform is changing basically every week. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. Every week there's something new in some part of the platform. And a lot of because of the interconnectedness of everything as well, you don't even just have to worry about the areas of the platform that you're using. You also have to worry about the areas of the platform you're not using or are using by proxy. And what does that mean for you? Or if you've got integrations, what changes there. So yeah, you said we've gone from 2 annual changes to 10, right? Which is an insane increase. So I think it's acknowledging the fact that it is happening. We need to unfortunately acknowledge the fact that it's not going to slow down. It's only going to get quicker. And the fact that, we used to think about technical debt as something that, you introduce a solution and you'll have technical debt maybe in 5 or 10 years or longer than that. Now, things that we're introducing now, particularly with AI moving quickly, technical debt could be 6 months. We have to clear our intellectual decks. The assumptions that we could make previously, we can't make them anymore. The good news is that there is a bit of a heads up about things that are coming. So you can know what changes are coming in the platform. They won't be sprung on you without a warning. There will be a warning, might not be sufficient time-wise, but there will be a warning, right? So we can debate that all we want, but there is visibility of the things that are coming down the line. And also, if you are an end client, you need to remember that you and your IT teams and your business users are not alone in preparing for the future. There is a lot of guidance by Microsoft themselves, but also that's where Microsoft partners come in. And the support kind of network of individuals and companies that exist that help you navigate that change and do your release planning and look at new releases coming up and how do you upgrade your systems. So there is support there and there is guidance there as well.
Fantastic answer already. I don't think I can be a contrarian to this. It is 100% like this. Things are not slowing down. They're just getting faster. And if we think of 2 things that people use, 2 things that come to my mind, people use apps and people use agents. If we think of agents, where they are today, they are constantly evolving. They're getting new things, new capabilities. So when you use an agent today, it's probably going to be pretty different in 6 months, not to mention a year, because it can do more. So they are changing. If you use apps, the apps that you use today are going to be different in 6 months or a year if whoever is building them is going to factor in the new great capabilities that AI brings into those apps. One option could be that you have your application and it looks the way that it was 5 years ago, that it doesn't have any kind of like modern stuff. Your development's frozen. They are going to fundamentally change in a very fast pace, in a faster pace than they changed 3-4 years ago.
So the speed will be even higher.
Be even higher, and that's I'm thinking, that's organizations need to find a way to embrace that. There's no point trying to fight that. It's annoying, it's inconvenient. It feels like going to that, your iPhone or your Android phone and finding out that you have 30, 40, 50 app updates a week, and it sucks to download those and wait for 30 minutes for those to get pushed in. That's how it feels using business application today. That's where we are, folks. Pick your battles, but don't pick this one.
Yeah, I think we need to be honest. The end user, they're following the steps that the people community, and by the way, this opportunity to celebrate Areti's MVP, because previous episodes we didn't have this opportunity to put this badge, but now it is. So people who are close to Microsoft, we've been battling with pace of change now for a couple of years. It's just trickling through to end users. Now they battle with that. So I think we can give a couple of good advice. My number one advice, you need to embrace the fact that you don't know everything. And I remember years ago, do you remember 2015? Do you remember still that period, 2014, 2011 even? If you
Vaguely.
touch. So I remember those days, you can literally know entire CRM, entire dynamics. You could literally know every single feature. And it was possible. And then when Power Automate came about, people were starting kind of splitting up, where everyone was starting finding his own or her own niche. You need to be open to the idea that you might not be aware of not a small feature, but actually a massive, a big epic which Microsoft rolled out. You might not be aware. So me personally, I barely used managed environments. I know how they work, but I didn't have a huge opportunity to use them. And but I've used some other areas which somebody else didn't touch yet. And this is kind of reality how you navigate. You want to keep your knowledge inside the team. That's number 2 advice. You try to split responsibilities, and somebody in your team knows more about some area. And the third one, be active member of community, because the knowledge you don't have somewhere in community, it exists. And unfortunately, there is no lack now of documentation. There is lack of time to read all this documentation.
Yeah, I exactly think the same. That you can't know everything in today's world, and
And don't be shy about that, right?
Exactly, and I want to use agents as an example. In the previous episodes we've discussed that personally I do about 95% of my time goes into governing Power Platform, and that means in today's world governing AI agents through what we build with Microsoft Copilot Studio. And the example that I'm going to give is that you can think of Microsoft Copilot Studio as something that sits in the middle as a tool on that platform. And then on the other side of that, we have Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is kind of out of the box and has its own things and methodologies. And then on the opposite side of Copilot Studio, we have Azure. We have Azure AI Foundry, and we have ways of and practices and methodologies of governing Azure. And in today's world, I'd be a unicorn if I knew all those three. I can't. I don't come from Azure. I don't come from modern work. I have to accept that. Great stuff to learn, but all I can do is be the best that I can be at low code and that low code governance. And kind of the message that I'm also saying to service managers here, you probably don't have internal resources, most likely won't have internal resources that are hardened experts in all these three either, but you probably have partners. And what you need to actually do in that partner ecosystem is ask yourself if those partners can manage those three areas, and think of a multi-partner, multi-vendor ecosystem for you, where those partners can talk together with you and with your business, and then kind of take off that responsibility of governance from you and help you out.
I think the important thing to keep in mind, it's important to make the right decisions as to what you do focus on. What do you decide to implement? What do you decide to take forward? What do you decide to roll out? And to not try to boil the ocean, because it's always a bad plan regardless of how fast technology is moving. It's almost more important to decide what you're not going to do than what you are going to do, because there's so many things you could potentially look at. So that would be my one piece of advice: is choose wisely.
How do you get with this FOMO, fear of missing out? What if the new shiny feature you haven't touched yet is the most important feature in your job and you don't know about that? I think a lot of end users have exactly that. They frequently remember years ago I was telling them, hey, we're going to send you newsletters. I could read from their faces they don't want to bother. Now they ask, can you send us some updates?
Yeah, I think, I've simply gotten better at it over the years. I was struggling with this when I started in IT, and I struggled with it for quite some time, and just over time I've gotten better at it. Maybe because I've been able to just acknowledge that with family life and whatnot, I just can't put in the hours any more than than I was used to able to put in. So it's been organic in that sense. It's just something that I've grown into, but the sting never goes away. Just today, literally, I was opening up DLP policies on our platform, and there is this tenant copilot in DLP policies. I haven't seen any announcements for that, so I went to one of our common WhatsApp groups that you guys are also in, and I was asking that question: "What's tenant copilot?" Didn't get any answers. Felt a bit better.
So this is how WhatsApp works. So that's exactly my feeling. Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah. Anyone else know about this? No, great.
Exactly,
I haven't missed anything. Yeah, didn't miss the memo. It's a very valid point. I think it's an interesting one, really, because this is only going to get worse for us, as per what we were discussing, right? There's more and more new things coming out. I made my peace with it because for me, it's all about have we got it all covered collectively? And what I mean by that is, do I need to worry about Azure, or do I know people looking at Azure that will let me know if there's anything cool and weird and wonderful happening in the Azure space? What box do I want to get to know? Which one's fun for me? Because knowing all the boxes, I'm not interested in that. It's impossible, like you guys have said. So I picked my box, and you can always change box. You can, you can only hold a certain number. And I think it's being aware of that and making sure that you don't get so caught up on knowing everything that you miss out on why you're doing this in the first place. And the answer is because it's fun to know things, and it's fun to develop your knowledge on something, and it's becoming an expert in something is where for me the joy is. Some people like to be overall knowledge, general knowledge.
Horizontal.
Yeah, and that's great too, right? But it's all about like, what do you as a person enjoy doing? And I think we need to be very aware of that. And we'll always have FOMO, but yeah, if you have FOMO and it's really bothering you, drop a box.
That's really, really good advice. And one thing just to add to that is I used to tick boxes for things for tech, and then didn't really have any customer work around those things. And then pretty quickly I forgot about those things, and then I had FOMO. So my approach has been lately has been that I try to only pick those boxes where I know that I'll also have customer work and customer engagements around, so that I work with relevant topics that I can then go deeper into if need be. And then if I just for some if there's a miracle that I happen to have extra time to pick a box just ad hoc for fun to study something, I might do that, but primarily just picking those boxes where I have actual customer work. That's been the approach for me.
Just to put this to bed, Areti, you mentioned that if something interesting, there is an interesting box using the language in Azure. Azure people will tell you. So a lot of managers, they would love to know how to be in the right place that Azure people would tell you. Are you talking about the conference? Are you talking about being a member of community, WhatsApp, and online? So where these Azure people, for your in your example, sit at?
So If you work for a Microsoft partner, it's one thing because you will have people in your organization that are responsible for those things. So you can go and speak to them basically and have kind of interdepartmental, interdivision conversations where you're keeping each other up to date. So that in itself helps. In my team, we are big fans of lunch and learns as well, for example, where if a consultant learns something fun, they will do a lunch and learn for everyone else in the team to go, hey, I did this thing. I found this thing. FYI. That helps kind of disseminate knowledge between people as well. And I think it's all about sharing. So even if you are on the Microsoft partner side or if you're on an end client side, I think the community kind of sits above both. It benefits both equally, I would argue. So user group events and conferences, they are great places to go and listen to the people that are using this technology day in, day out, and have conversations with them afterwards, particularly, which is very helpful. Say, hey, I loved your session on blah. What else do you see coming in? Or this is what I'm using at the moment. What would you want me to look at next? And even, dare I say it, Copilot itself can be a good bit of advice, but just be careful of hallucinations and things that it tells you that may not be right. But sometimes it can be good to ask it general questions and say, where do you think the Power Platform is going to be in 10 years' time? And, I've got this issue. What should I do next? Or this is my Dynamics 365 finance and operations licensing right now. How does this translate to the new licensing? But obviously there's no replacement for the humans that are doing it day in, day out. That's the thing I love about the Microsoft community, is that when you have conversations with people, whether you are attending a user group and you talk to other people using the technology, like in a similar role to you, there is a lot of knowledge transfer between people that is very useful, because documentation only goes so far, and in some cases doesn't go far enough. And that's why the community exists, and that's why conferences exist, and dare I say, that's why Microsoft partners exist, because there's only so much that Microsoft can put out in order to support the thousands of people that are actually using this technology.
And one pro tip I do want to give, just to those in the audience who are slightly more technical and struggle with finding content on Microsoft Learn. It used to be that the best way to Microsoft Learn used to be through pretty much Google. But today, Microsoft Learn actually has an MCP server that you can use. So maybe we can put that link to, ironically, to Docs in our show notes. But yeah, Microsoft Learn has an MCP server that you can use with your own chatbots or your AI agents that you build.
Yeah, and it can get kind of self-educated on the new stuff. Just to highlight a couple of takeaways from what you guys mentioned. So obviously MCP is actually a very cool idea. Areti, you mentioned, so number one, lunch and learn. We also do lunch and learn in-house. We actually have round robin. It's mandatory to do it every Friday. Do you guys want to share the last thing about conferences? Because conference is a big deal. And to be honest, I think I spent at least 7 years being active, at least as an attendee on conferences, and I still didn't figure out the rule how to be in every single room, because so many competitive, interesting topics. I really, every single time I go, I complain why it's not recorded. And I start recording my own sessions. Hopefully I'll publish them, because I have a backlog of videos now. And I know, Areti, you run a couple of conferences. Antti, you contribute to your speaking. So tell us how to navigate for your end user.
Well, there is tracks in conferences. So a lot of attendees will probably focus on a specific track. So they will go to the Power Platform sessions, or they will go to the AI one. I think a lot of people, though, jump around quite a bit, because that's where the benefit is getting a bit of information around a lot of different topics rather than just a single track. I am seeing a conference getting bigger with a lot more, for lack of a better word, content and separate areas of, like a partner track day, and that kind of, like, it's all evolving. We've done obviously mentorship, speed mentorship as part of it. There's lots of things in conferences that are being kind of added on to the conference. So the conference just used to become, look at the sessions, great, goodbye. But there's now celebrations at the end of days and things like that, and obviously different things going on. So you're always gonna, it's a full-blown thing. Yeah, exactly. And the amount of work that goes into them cannot be overstated, honestly. But you have to choose. Have people come with you to the conference that you can then compare notes with. So I can't go to the session, so you go to that session. A lot of the time, the speakers will share their slides, and their slides will, to a certain extent, help understand a little bit about the session. Not as good as the real thing, obviously. but it can help you if you were not able to go to a session. But the other thing is as well, and I have found this quite a bit, if you message the speaker afterwards and you say, hey, I really wanted to come to your session, but I didn't manage to, could I have the slides, or could I have a half-hour chat with you about it because I'm really interested in this topic? A lot of people will indulge and take you through their presentation and give you the distilled version of it, which allows you to gain a lot from it as well. So I had someone that I missed their session and they missed mine, and we were both gutted that we missed each other's sessions, and we just had 2 half-hour slots where they took me through their session and I took them through mine. And
Brilliant.
yeah, we caught up, and then we had no FOMO. So that's one way to do it as well. You can see, I think for me, the conferences are, yes, go to the sessions, go to the ones that you can, but also don't miss out on meeting people face to face and making those connections and getting to know people in areas of the stack that you don't have access to. The main benefit you get from it is getting to meet people face to face and make those connections, and because that transcends the conference, if you see what I mean.
Life hack that go and talk to a person. Antti, do you have any of your life hacks at conferences?
Yeah, first off, plan ahead and question your own decisions. If you worked on Power Automate for 10 years, then maybe a Power Automate tips and tricks session will not give you a satisfactory reward. So maybe go to a session that for something that you're not that familiar with. Then personally, out of my own experience, if you have, say, 8, 9, 10 years in the industry, you might not in general learn from sessions that much anymore as you did when you just got started. And I see that for myself, that I go to sessions more to brush up on things. How much more research do I have to put into topic XYZ to get on board? Is my knowledge at a level that I'm happy with? And then, from that, if I want to have more in-depth knowledge, chat with the speakers. I think the knowledge really gets transferred and transferred in between sessions and during breaks. Reach out to people, like I already said. Just reach out. If they don't have time for you, then they don't have time for you. But if they do, then that's great. Just reach out.
And if they only have
those
time for you later with a drink in their hand, what a shame.
Exactly. And go to those after parties, chat about those topics with the kind of the authorities outside of those sessions. Personally, that's where I have my biggest learnings. When I need to learn from ALM, there's a couple of people that are still learning Power Platform ALM, and if I want to learn something, I talk to those guys. We've already discussed we can't be subject matter experts in everything. Try to have a low barrier to asking questions. I'm pretty sure the speakers in general won't mind. The Power Platform community is pretty great.
I think speakers are the best people to go and ask questions because they have a reason, maybe internal, some kind of intrinsic reason to go and speak to people. Don't be shy, especially with speakers. Are we ready for our Wheel of Fortune? I'll go and share my screen. Just a second. Okay, so we're spinning the topic, we're choosing the topic, actually Wheel of Fortune choosing topic for us, and then it will choose who will have to summarize that topic when we finish the conversation. So spin one. Okay, training and enablement. Okay, and I will have to summarize it. Training and enablement. Teach the job, not the tool. We actually touched today a couple of things with lunch and learns, with go and speak to people. But what do you think the most effective and least effective way of teaching people, and how to and consider the human factor here rather than pure technology?
The thing that I want to say is that there isn't one way when it comes to humans. Some people learn differently to others. So some people want to read an article. Some people want to watch a video. Some people want to listen to something. Some people don't like any of those things and just want to go in and play with it and blow it up and actually have that practical experience, and they learn that way. So I think the most important thing is, however you decide to train people, it needs to take into account how they'd like to learn.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic answer. And if I think of our customers and when we build something or we teach the platform, that is our approach as well. And we try to have 3 different things. We try to have what are called clinics. So we pick a topic, we pick a subject, and then maybe it's me presenting on that topic, that kind of training session. And primarily people listen. maybe do some quick labs, but there might be hundreds of people online following me, so it's not too one-on-one. The other thing that I do, I have one-on-one sessions with people. In many cases, customers don't have hundreds of people that are interested in Power Platform or build tools and whatnot. It's fewer than that, so I have the time to take those one-to-one sessions. I want to say I'm always available for a ping, and I'll try to fit you in if I can. So I try to have one-on-one sessions. And then to cater that third way of learning is through written materials. As boring as it sounds, you have your SharePoint pages where you have things on. How does this work? What are our policies? What is our strategy? And then if we want to do it more in depth and deep dive, then we push people to Microsoft Docs and Microsoft Learn Training, where they also have things on paper in a written format and then in videos.
I'm just thinking again, to come from contrarian point of view, there is a general understanding that technology is taught by series of trainings, and all you have to do is just to feed people with that spoon, just as many times as possible, and just go away. So another thing which came about was TikTokization. There is a way better, way worse way of saying the same thing, but TikTokization of long videos into 3, 5, like really short videos. And ironically, we've tested it, and that wasn't very popular too. And we were trying to do it even context sensitive. So if you're on specific, let's say, contact form, or you're learning Power Automate specific feature, that video would be relevant and visible just there. And still people not using it. So ironically, I feel that we're somewhere in between. We're stuck between two schools of thought. One is teach as long as possible. It's like back to university. And another thing, no, make it really casual, make like bite-sized videos. And none of these things are got it really off the ground in terms of training. But fundamentally, what people prefer is one-on-one, just in time. I can tell people demand for, it's not always practical, but that's where I think maybe if we'll nail it again through AI, they say AI can make a difference in education. You can have tutoring just for maybe for Power Platform, for Dynamics. What do you guys feel? Let's share what doesn't work or what's more likely to fail.
I've definitely seen cramming too much into one session, and people are just flooded with information, and they come out of it after a day of training, and their heads are just destroyed. They can't withhold 10% of the information they've been shown because there's just so much new information that has been thrown at them that it becomes counterproductive. Their argument to that is if you want to do it piecemeal or little TikTok videos, the content matters. You can do short and quick things for certain topics, but for other topics, you really do need in-depth sessions. It's the train people over time rather than, put them in a meeting room for a week, training them every day, because it will just be very, very difficult for their brain to take the information and adjust to it and learn from it. There won't necessarily be much time for them to practice. So technology is a very practical thing that we use. So giving time as well for them to have a go at it and learn by doing, because fundamentally that's what you need them to do.
The only thing that I can kind of add to that is if I have a topic that I need to train to an audience and I have a day of time to train that topic, what I would really like to do is I'd like to have a good split of theory and practicality, and really not actually be on the air myself that much, kind of keep my slides and keep my presence on the air to a minimum, and then outsource the responsibility to the attendee. And what I mean by that is create labs that are not step-by-step instruction, but create labs that are slightly vague and make the attendee figure it out. Teach them where to find information from. Or Docs, Learn, how to use Google. What are the keywords to extract information if you don't have that MCP server, Docs, MCP
Or if
server.
you're watching this a year from now, how to do right prompts in Copilot.
Exactly. So keep the labs vague so that people need to exert an effort for completing those labs and search for that information themselves. I'm going to shut up, talk about something for 15, 20 minutes that's, for a given topic, then give them an hour and a half, 2 hours to figure it out themselves. Then we go through the answers. And at the end of those 2 hours, I've been on the air for not more than 15 or 20 tops.
Well, I see the same when we're training when we're training juniors into Dynamics. We do exactly that. We don't give step by step. We almost give, this is your task. This is how the outcome should look like. And these are blogs and Google queries, maybe ChatGPT prompts in future, which will give you enough information. So I think for our audience, we can tell if you really want people to get something out of the training, be sure that it's practical and that spend their own time trying to even stumbling, trying to go through those impossible to read documentation, because that's exactly what they will do in the field when you're not around. But second big thing is you need to have somebody in a room on their floor, like a trainer, a person, ambassador or champion. I remember, Antti, in one of our early episodes, you were slightly against champions. And I'm really curious to hear about your opinion from training perspective. But to have champions in the room who know some more advanced answers. So that kind of combination where you ask people to train and get really challenging. And second thing is have somebody in the room who could do it one-on-one, just to create this kind of environment.
Yeah, so I think I'll go back to what Antti was saying before. I think generally in terms of how we approach training, Benjamin Franklin has a quote which I think summarizes what we've talked about, which is tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. And I think that is fundamentally what we're saying, is that people need to be involved. So, and I think there's another one that says not having heard of it is not as good as having heard of it. Having heard of it is not as good as having seen it. Having seen it is not as good as knowing it. Knowing it is not as good as putting it into practice. So you need to have the experience. You need to get hands-on in order for it to sink in and in order for you to do something with it. The thing that we need to remember is that training is not a one-off exercise. And what I mean by that is you can be taught something, but then how much you can do with it is up to you to continue using it and get better at it. And particularly when it comes to new systems or agents or whatever technology we implement, there is a journey that people will go on in terms of using that technology. And while they're going on that journey, linking it back to what we started talking about at the beginning of the episode, it'll change and there will be new things they have to learn. So I think for me, that's the bit where super users or champions come in. I definitely think that if you're going to have super users or champions, they should be the people doing UAT, actual acceptance of the system. Because if you involve them early in your show and tells during build and in the UAT, and if they have a say in how the system works, they will be involved because they will have had a say in shaping how that system works for the business. But also, if you then say to them, are you actually happy to do this role? So don't just give this role to people that don't want to do it, right? It's a case of finding the right people in the team that people feel comfortable. It's about having those people and having enough of them in every team, that every team has a person that they know they can go to if they've got a question about the system. And also that person can feed back to the IT team or the business about how the system is operating and what they would like to see next, what they would like to see change, different ways that they might think of using the system that you haven't thought of before. So I think there is more to having a lot more benefits to having super users and champions than just from a training perspective, but also from a training perspective, they could be the people training the teams ongoingly. So I think that's the main thing for me is we need to think of training as an ongoing thing, not as a one-off exercise. To give you an example from my own professional kind of experience, when we had a go live, we were implementing D365, and the IT director decided that the best thing that we could do so that people knew who to go to for help once during hypercare was that we were all dressed as fairies. So we all dressed up as fairies and we just wandered around and you couldn't miss us. So if someone was trying to put an opportunity in the system and they were having trouble, they'd be like, I need a fairy. And everyone could tell where the fairy was. Or fairies, and we tried to make it fun. Look, it's the company culture definitely supported it, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, whether they wear silly hats, it's actually worth making sure that that people can ask for help, and it's okay to ask for help, and you make it a little bit fun for everyone as well.
I mean, in all honesty, I think I have a bit of mixed feelings about champions, and again, my perspective is more from a local platform point of view, and then on that platform, the majority that you have are simpler apps. So I think it's a bit different when you have bigger systems and you really incorporate or hopefully incorporate these things into that bigger solution. But if I think of from a platform perspective, first off, if we have champions and if we have champion program, then there is a two-tier sort of approach to training and upskilling, kind of the basic level, and then there's the champion level. So you need to really budget your champion program and build it well and engage with your champions. So it's a time and money investment which is a lot of times unfortunately lacking on our platform. And then from those champions' point of view, they kind of have to be generalists. It's not usually a single application or a single system that they are subject matter experts in. So I'm just skeptical whether they can do more harm than good. Maybe I just need some proof and some good examples.
I definitely agree with you that a champion program should be a separate program. It should be a separate investment. We definitely approach champions as a cheap alternative. It's kind of, let's call it a lazy alternative. And it should be way more structured, because definitely champions, if it's the wrong people, we discussed one of earlier episodes, and people who watch can go and check it. We discuss how important to choose the right people. And sometimes champions, just because it's a lazy hand approach, can be a wrong person.
Antti and I will agree to disagree. I'll have to convince him about the usefulness of champions. To be continued.
So far, what we discussed, you need to be intentional about building your training program. You need to be a quiet person, even if you're a speaker. Try to do as much hands-on as possible. Make your training really challenging. Training is a lifelong thing. It's not one-off. Even if you build your champion program and you have somebody in a room who can be that one-on-one trainer, be sure you have a champion program to train them up. Thank you for being with us.